Yes. Okay, so we are not French anymore. We are a US company now. We have been acquired in last year. So for a startup founder, is just a grab, right? It's my job is done. So thank you. Anyway, so I think we had this introduction about RED. So last year I did the same speech. This year I want maybe to give a little bit more information about the background, about the breakdown, and also an update of the data. So it will be still technical, so I will not have time really to go into all the acronyms and explaining what is CBRS. I assume that most of you are already aware of this three-tier dynamic sharing framework that the FCC put in place, basically to share with mainly the Navy. So it's a DoD band which has been shared by commercial application. Basically, there is three tiers. The tier one is the incumbent, is the one which have the highest priority. The tier two has been auctioned, so you have been able to buy per county-based licensed, where you get exclusivity using channels. And then you have the GAA, the tier three, which gives you unlicensed access when nobody else is using it, neither tier one, tier two. Okay, so now with the number of CBSD, we have 420,000 CBSDs deployed. Those are, wait.
PJ, so that number, isn't it close to what you had last year?
Oh, yes. This is my last slide, which is about year-over-year growth.
So
right?
it's zero?
Yeah, no, not zero. We will see. But yes, basically it has been flat from last year. This is one of the takeaways. Thank you, Paco.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if there is other interesting information in my presentation. Okay. So this presentation or those numbers are really saying that basically this is not an experimentation. This is not a band where it's not used at all. So there is more than 400,000 TBSD deployed right now. When we look at the tier two, in 2020, there have been an auction, 20,000 license, so one license per country per 10 megahertz has been auctioned. And we have seen those owners of PALs deploying quite effectively. So some of the owners that bought those PALs have deployed. So we have what we call PPA, so it's 10,000 of those. A PPA is as soon as you start to deploy on your PAL, you get protected, and we call those protection area PPAs. However, what is interesting to see is some of us thought that having a flexible licensing scheme, like the tier two having only county-based, will also allow for a secondary market. So we were also looking for spectrum lease, and even the FCC has done some engineering around the lease to simplify the way you lease spectrum. There is 145 leases in CBRS. There is no secondary market on CBRS right now. Maybe it's something that will take off, but at least today, what we can say on the tier two is there is no secondary market. However, those who vote PALs are using it.
Why is such a difference between PALs and PPAs?
Yes, yeah. So for example, also the good thing, what the FCC did is, it's not because you buy your PAL that you have exclusive access. You need to deploy, yes, right? And a PPA would be a continuous boundary of your deployment. So PPAs can be big or can be, if it's one, it's small. If it's 100 contiguous TBSD radios, it would be quite big.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay, so this is not accurate. It's difficult. It has been difficult to try to break down per use case the CBRS band, only because most of those information are let's say, business sensitive. So when I did this slide, we were at 60 for fixed wireless access and 40 at mobile broadband and private, but it seems to be much higher. I think we are looking for fixed wireless access in CBRS for around 75% of the CBSDs which have been deployed serve a fixed wireless access use case. The rest will be, the last numbers I have is 23%, little bit more than 23% would be for mobile broadband. So for example, in CBRS, there is one MNO which is very active, which is called Verizon. They have massively deployed CBRS in their PAL, but also in GA. But 23% would be MBB. And the rest, which is 1% on something, would be private LTE or private 5G. So private LTE and private 5G in CBRS is still not a large share. When you look at that, I mean, if you look at least in the US, for other bands, on licensed bands, you have seen a big interest growing about FWA. FWA is something that is really growing. And in CBRS, it does not oppose this. It's also growing in CBRS. So this is, I think, one takeaway from today, which you did not have last year. Okay, another takeaway, which is a little bit linked, is so in the standard, in the WinForm standard on CBRS, you have 9 standardized air interface. Okay, but in reality, there is only 4 which have been deployed. Of course, the LTE or the 4G, the 5G, and you have 2 proprietary air interface which belong to vendors. That's why I don't put the name here. But you can see, and those vendors are only doing FWA. So again, FWA also use proprietary technology in CBRS. So there is the room, the market, the ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, for even proprietary interface to grow, which is quite unusual, I think. Still, 3GPP is the biggest or largest share if you combine 5G and 4G.
So what about compatibility or coexistence of all?
Yeah, so FWA, one vendor has both ends, right? They have CPEs and base stations. So they can do proprietary installation, it's CPE, it's FWA, it's fixed, right? When you go for mobile, even if you do mobile with mobile technology, you do FWA, then you have to go for standardized technology. So you will never have mobile broadband or private network probably with a proprietary interface. It does not make any sense. For fixed wireless, it's
also talking more about, related to what Bob was talking about, like Verizon, network versus a fixed wire. How do they coexist in this band? Do you see, have there been any?
I have a slide on that, but to be short on this, 400,000 at the size of the US, it's not big, right? It's not nothing, it's not big. And so far, it has been without really any, there have not been, for example, interference with incumbent reported. And within the band, it seems that people enjoy high bandwidth, high quality connectivity. But again, it's 400,000. Maybe people think about 1 million, maybe 2 million CBSDs. Maybe there will need to be more coexistence framework, but right now there is no coexistence, right? When you are in tier 3, you can transmit on the same channel and you just are close by. But then people will re-engineer, maybe they will split the band or they will do. Okay, now if we look at the breakdown between indoor, outdoor, CBRS is an outdoor band right now. There is no indoor, right? So there is no PAL lease. People thought that there would be PAL leasing. People thought that it will replace DAS or whatever, indoor, in malls, in stadium, in whatever. Okay, right now, CBRS is mostly outdoor still. So what does it mean in terms of category? In CBRS, we have two types of radios. One is category A, which is rather indoor. Another one, which is higher power, category B, which cannot be put indoor. Of course, if you don't have indoor, you don't have category A. So CBRS can be higher power outdoor. Also, this match FWA. When you have 75% of deployment, which is FWA, there is no indoor in that equation. So I think this still makes sense. Okay, another thing which is quite interesting is how people use the band. So those who bought PALs, they are not staying on PAL. They are using PAL and GA. Those which are GA only represent 65% of the deployment, which is fine. FWA is probably mostly using GA because it's rural suburban, right? It's 65%. But for those who are using PAL, they are also using GA. So the PAL owner, those that bought the PAL, enjoy the best of both worlds, which is also quite interesting. So this is where the PAL owner deployed over the US is per county. It's maybe difficult to get and to analyze exactly what it means, but when you compare this, which are, remember, it's PAL owner using also GA. This is where they are located, and this is the more red is the more highly used. If you go to GA only, then it's more spread. So GA is really used for FWA. It's really used. It's really used in rural suburban, whereas PAL are more located. So you can see the comparison is not exactly the same, really, deployment geographies. Okay, so we have seen the number of CBSD, the PAL versus the GA. There is no indoor, fine. But now, when you use the PAL or the GA, where are you using the spectrum? Okay, one of the characteristics of the CBRS is when you are using PAL, you can only use in the lower 100 megahertz on the 150. So GA have a safe harbor, what we call a safe harbor, which is the upper 50. And there is no surprise. There is no surprise for GA. I mean, they are using more the upper 50. This is their safe harbor than the lower, where they have to share with PAL. When you share with PAL, if the PAL is deployed, you are kicked out. Okay. So there is no surprise where the GA is most used. So it's in the upper 50. Now, what is interesting in the lower 100 where you have PALs, the upper part is more used. And this is not likely because you are right in the middle, far from the high power bands which are below and high power bands which are above, is because this represents probably one of few PAL owners that have extensively deployed on PAL. There is one operator that bought everything here, and he has not deployed at all. So this graph rather represents who is really using their PAL and the ones that have not been using it. But this means also that people does not necessarily know that, because for GA, they are not using this part. So the PAL is completely unused here, and GA are not taking this opportunity. Okay, so this is the graph. So the SAS, which is a database that authorize the access of a radio on the band, you have to request a power, and the SAS, based on all the information he has, it will give you either what you have requested or a lower power. And this is also a KPI maybe to represent how much incumbents impact the band. So look at the orange bars, and basically what you request, you get it. It means that from an incumbent point of view, the CBRS band, the incumbent does not really have a big impact on the CBRS. Whatever you request, you get it. Again, this is maybe also because there is only 400,000 CBSD in the band and not 2 million, but at least so far so good. I mean, people are really enjoying CBRS, and from an incumbent point of view, probably there is no interference. And there is probably a lot of room before these numbers become lower. So if you want the maximum power in the band, most likely you will get it. Okay, so this is another, it's about the bandwidth. So the previous slide was only 3% of the CBSD, so we forget about it. So we are back to the CBSD that are using only GA, which represents 65% of the band, which is quite big. But what we see is people are using 5 megahertz up to 150. Of course, there would be very low number of those that are using 5, but the flexibility is there. You can use up to 150 megahertz in the band. Some are using it. This is the flexibility of what has been deployed. This is real data. But the bandwidth is in average 46 megahertz. Now, when you look at those who deployed in PAL using GA, in average, they are a much better bandwidth. So again, the big winner of to my view, the big winner are those guys. Okay, maybe they buy a license for 10 megahertz or 20 megahertz, but they are enjoying. If you add on top of it GA, then basically you have more bandwidth available for you than if you are a GA only. When people will understand that, maybe the secondary market, maybe the PAL lease will take off. Okay, so this is a quick. So because we have to protect incumbents, and because GA has to protect also the one that deployed on PAL, the antenna height has a big importance. Higher you are, and most likely you will interfere with somebody. So it's just a breakdown about Cat A and Cat B, and in fact, half of the CBSDs are below 6 meters, half of CBSDs are above 6 meters. Regardless of the category, category A and category B are the same. And the thing is, we made a rule, or we made rules about this 6 meter. So if you are below 6 meter, I mean, the rules are very very good for you, right? If you are above 6 meter, then everything which is around the coast, then you get a little bit more trouble. So really the 6 meter is like a threshold. If you can stay below, you enjoy much more spectrum than if you are above.
So PJ, as you know, there have been voices asking to just, auction this band, maybe I think AT&T and others, correct? So yeah, so the question is, if you have a high power, high tower deployments above 6 meters, and then high power like macro deployments, how do you think this is going to impact the incumbents and the use of this band?
Okay, so even though we did it for TV white space, even for the AFC is the same story. When you start to make a rule about sharing spectrum and you have one side that does not want to share, right? You just put the most conservative parameters that you can. CBRS is still running with very conservative parameters. I think that, to me, from the deployment we have seen, there is still a lot of room before we start to impact the incumbent. So there is, I think it's okay. There is one thing. It's different. There is a discussion about in CBRS having a new category of CBSD, like category C, to have higher power but still spectrum sharing. if you look at the impact on the incumbent with the current rules and probably the other conservative parameters, probably the higher power will work very well in that band. Will it work together with Cat B and Cat A? This is another story, but from an incumbent point of view, it should work very well. Now, what NTNT suggested was not higher power, it was to re-auction the band. And if you re-auction the band, the DoD has to move.
Yeah.
So there is no incumbent anymore. Okay. So if you make a CBRS like the upper C band, there is no incumbent, there is no spectrum sharing, it's exclusive license, and then we don't have the problem. But really, so far the deployment has been proven that first the CBRS works, and the CBRS protects the incumbents, and that the PAL owner that buys those PALs really enjoy both of the best work.
So, PJ, I have a question from someone online. So he's from the US. So if CBRS, I mean, the framework moves to another part of the spectrum, 3.1, whatever, how then do you record and test the SAS software? If you take the SAS and you move it to 3.1,
I hope that we won't do that.
Yeah, but if you have to do it, is that the?
I'm not sure I get the question. What is it possible? How do we do that? What is?
Yeah, all the certification. Would you need to redo everything for a different band because it's not exactly the same incumbents, perhaps, or you know how long it took, correct? You were part of this whole.
Remember, okay, again, the history. If we have to follow the history, okay, we have TV Whitespace. We know TV Whitespace. We are the only database administrator still alive. TV Whitespace was not a success, but technically it was working. I think it was shown. Okay, so we had a framework from TV Whitespace. When the FCC look at CBRS, they learn from TV Whitespace. They did it in a different way, but very specific for the band. When they get to 6 GHz with the AFC, they did it again, learning from TV Whitespace and from CBRS. And AFC is even better, is even simpler, etc., etc. But the AFC is specific for the 6 GHz, and the SAS is specific for CBRS. If we have to move to 3.1, which is another band, another types of incumbents, which seems to be more complicated, it won't be a CBRS. It would be something completely different. Okay. So there will be no, okay, there is no this concept of taking CBRS and moving it to the lower band. It would be a completely new system, something completely different. Okay, so this is the year-to-year growth. CBRS and Prakash, you were right. So this is not much interesting. This is flat. Okay, it's flat. Okay. What is more interesting is 5G is growing. Even if it's flat, 5G is growing. 4G is decreasing. Why? Not sure why, but you can see that there is some decommission or some CBSD moving from 4G to 5G. And when you look at FWA, if you sum this, FWA has a higher rate growth than MBB right now in CBRS. And why it's so flat? I mean, it does not help when you don't have the visibility on the band. And it has been several months, or if not, remember when NTNT started to argue about whether CBRS needs to be re-auctioned because it was a fiasco. Okay, this is their word. This is not mine. It's not a fiasco for sure. It's a big success from innovation, but also from a market standpoint. NTNT started this 1 year ago. So I mean, when you don't have this visibility on the band, why you would invest? It's very hard. So this is a hard time for CBRS right now because we don't have a clear statement, or we don't really know what will happen. So I think this is also coming from this flat growth. Yes, Sean.
In the US, as you're tracking last year, the FCC and the NTA modified the size of the DPAs, right, to make the coordination areas much smaller, significantly much smaller. Have you seen any benefit from that in terms of greater accessibility of the spectrum, users?
Okay, so it was called CBRS 2.0. right? CBRS 2.0 break down the CBSD about the antenna height on whether you are indoor or outdoor. So in fact, we give much more flexibility to, for example, CBSD, which were indoor. Bad luck, CBRS is about outdoor right now, and there have been no growth on this. So the market is not ready for indoor. Yeah, it's not ready from a use case perspective. If you look at the breakdown in terms of use case, we talk a lot about FWA 75%. Private 5G on private LTE seems to be 1.2%. So CBRS 2.0, which was supposed to enable indoor private 5G or private network in general, came at a time where the market is not yet mature. And it's not yet mature in the US, but it's not yet mature in Europe as well. I mean, it's still something which has to grow. It's not really mature as a market.
But I think there was also something done to reduce the protection, the DPAs, correct? But dynamic protection areas along the coastline. So that I'm trying to figure out, would that?
Yeah, so CBRS 2.0, if you deployed indoor near the coast, you don't have a DPA impact anymore. But we are talking about indoor, we are talking about CAT-A, we are talking about private network.
But even for outdoor, correct? Would that?
Yeah, but outdoors, it's shrink, but it's still there. It's still there. Another information which is quite interesting is what is the state where you have the most CBSDs which have an impact on DPA is Texas. Maybe I would have expected California, but it's Texas. Texas has enjoyed CBRS a lot, maybe because of the oil. I don't know, maybe of the nature of what is going in Texas. There are a lot of coasts, so there are still an impact on DPA. But this is the number of CBSDs that potentially impact most Texas, the Navy is in Texas. And hopefully Texas does not see very much Navy ships there, right? It's rather San Diego and Norfolk. So yeah. So CBRS 2.0, which was supposed to enable indoor, mostly, it's not mature enough. So what we call enterprise business. Okay, any more questions? No. Thank you.